This week on the PRESSURECAST, Final Fantasy VII goes from multiple episodes to multiple games, and I explain why Quantum Break is kind of a bad game. It's Monday, April 11th, 2016. Everything happening in the world of video games is here, now on the PRESSURECAST. Hey, Pressure Pals, welcome to the 125th episode of the PRESSURECAST. VideoGamesAreDumb.com's weekly news panic that posts every single Monday on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn Radio, and America's longest-running independent newspaper at ShepherdExpress.com. My name is Colin Tanner, and I am tired. Oy. The Midwest Gaming Classic was all weekend. I just got back, and man, what an event it was. Tons of classic arcade cabinets, tons of amazing developers from the past. People like Brian Collin. He developed General Chaos. He also did the art on Rampage. Got to interview him. Saw Jeff Lee. We didn't do an interview, but I got to talk to Jeff Lee for a bit. He's the creator of Qbert. Awesome guy. Talked to him last year. You can check out a video on that. Spoke to a ton of independent developers. Talked to Nathan from Galactivision about his new VR project. Super exciting stuff. Even got to hang out with the guys from Portables of Doom. We didn't do an interview this year, but spent a lot of time with them over the weekend. Super fun people. They showed off the Game Man, which is a giant Game Boy, about, like 4 feet tall, made by Ben Heck. Wow, what a crazy weekend. And you'll be seeing a ton of interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks on youtube.com/videogamesaredumb. So please go there and check those out whenever they're finished encoding and being edited, because trust me, there will be a lot of editing. There's always a weird technical problem right in the middle of an interview. Those are so much fun to do, but also incredibly stressful. But let's move back on to the traditional rails of the PRESSURECAST, starting off with, oh no, here it comes. Kabloom! That's right, it's time for the earth-shattering news. My throat is just sore from all that yip-yapping. Luckily, it's not an infection or anything because, man, hand sanitizer, washing your hands after touching all those grubby old consoles and arcade machines, that was a must. That was a must. There was a must, actually, in some of those rooms. It smelled terrible. But we have to talk about the biggest story of the week, the one that is imperative to your understanding of the video game landscape, some might say. I would say that. And this week it is once again Final Fantasy VII and its upcoming remake from Square Enix. Well, here's what's up. The producer of the series, Yoshinori Kitase, always screw up that guy's name. He was in an interview with Game Informer where he dropped this bombshell. When the project was first announced, people were confused by its multi-part nature, but the goal is to structure it more like Final Fantasy XIII, a series that had 3 games in it, than an episodic series. It will essentially be a full-scale game for each part of the multi-part series. In Final Fantasy XIII, each installment told the story from a different angle. It was kind of like approaching an unknown territory in a sense. Whereas Final Fantasy VII Remake, we already have a pre-existing story, so it wouldn't really make sense if that encompassed in a multi-part series. So we're just looking at each of these parts. One part should be on par with the scale of one Final Fantasy XIII game. When people said, the interviewer said, won't this annoy some people? I mean, you're making changes. He said this: we were the people who created it. So in that sense, we don't think anything is untouchable. That isn't to say we're changing everything. So it's official. Final Fantasy VII. It is now going to be a multi-game series, which I know will upset a lot of fans, but let's be honest here, everything upsets the fans. Everyone from back in the day that played Final Fantasy VII for the 50, 60, 70, maybe even 100 hours of gameplay has this image in their mind of what Final Fantasy is. And any sort of remake is going to deviate from what they think it should be. It's going to be missing components. And one of those is it's not going to be a single game anymore. It's going to be multiple games. Is this a good idea? Well, I don't really know. See, that's the thing about a remake, is that it has a lot of built-up anticipation, especially with Final Fantasy VII. All these ideas of what it will look like, how it will play. Oh my goodness, it's going to be something totally different, or is it going to hold on to the spirit of the original? Well, once you put out one game, and really depending on how well that game does critically, I'd say more than financially, in a lot of ways. When people actually play it, and if it's a quality game, of course they can continue this. But if it shows up like Final Fantasy 13 and you've got a lot of mixed reception and maybe the scores are high, but word on the street is it's not that solid of a Final Fantasy, then why would people play the next one? That's the thing about Final Fantasy. You literally jump from one world to the next with a whole new set of characters, different technology, different systems. When you are building the template that will be in multiple games, that's really tricky. That kind of ruins the allure of Final Fantasy. But if they can put out the first game and it works, more power to them. But this is really unprecedented. This is not something we've seen before. I guess the closest I could think of would be a more recent example of a game that hasn't even come out yet, which is the remaking System Shock. They're going to remake System Shock, and then presumably they're going to remake System Shock 2 over at Night Drive Studios. That would be something similar to that. But those are sequels, separate games. Final Fantasy VII was 3 discs on the PlayStation 1. It's a classic. At one point it was called the greatest game of all time. Then it became the most overrated game of all time. It's in terms of public perception, it's traveled around quite a bit, but it still is a recognizable franchise and one that's beloved by many, many fans. And I'm not really convinced that putting it into multiple games will end up with a real solid product for people. Because the problem is that once you put out one game and maybe you put out 2 more episodes, that's whatever it is, $180. You really have to convince people from that first disc that this entire series is going to be worth, and this is just guessing that it'd be 3 because there were 3 discs on the PlayStation 1. There's really no basis in that, but you really have to convince people that this experience is worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And maybe it is. I just wonder exactly how many resources Square Enix is willing to put into Final Fantasy VII. And because before they had said, well, if we were to remake Final Fantasy VII, it would take resources away from other projects we want to work on. Which, a lot of people are like, yeah, but come on, it's just one game. Well, not anymore. It seems like they've created their own problem now. I mean, the idea of an episodic series in the vein of, The Walking Dead for Final Fantasy VII, I thought made a lot of sense. I was really excited. I put out a video on it, said, this is going to be super cool. Like, once you leave Midnar, it's a brand new episode. Like, wow. And then you wait a month, and you get to have the conversation with other players. Now you're just releasing more RPGs, and it's not special. It's something you've already done before. So frankly, I'm not really. I'm gonna play it, of course. I love Final Fantasy VII, but I'm starting to get the doubt. When everyone else said, "Oh, this is the worst idea ever," I said, "Hold on, let us wait for them to speak, and then we will see." But now I just don't know anymore. What the heck are you doing, Square Enix? But I want to hear from you. Email pressurecast@gmail.com, tweet at pressurecastpod, or even call or text 954-947-7377. Leave a voicemail, leave a text message. Either way, we'll read it on the show next week because that's really what this is all about. This is a very small bit of news. I really want to hear some responses. Please keep them short and sweet, right to the point. Would love that. But that will have to do it for Oh No, Here It Comes, Kaboom! That was the earth-shattering news. It's time to get on a train. Doot, doot. Time to get on a train. Time to get on the train. Doot, doot. Time to get on the train. Doot, doot. That's right. It's time for the hype train. Feel the PR vibrations as we barrel towards Video Game Satisfaction Station. Burrow. This part of the show, we talk about all those upcoming video games to get you hyped up to spend all your money and end up a video game guru. We have to start it off with Gears of War 4. It finally has a release date, October 11th. This is probably going to be positioned as the big Xbox One exclusive coming this fall. Obviously, or actually, I don't even know if they ever confirmed this, but I was under the impression that it was going to be coming to PC. No information on that whatsoever. They have never confirmed that. My brain is just a pile of mush this week. Gears of War 4 apparently is going to be more in line with the original vision of what Gears of War was going to be, and you hear this in interviews all the time. Like, Cliff Bleszinski thought it was going to be like Band of Brothers, and I guess, you know, it started off being a little darker. Part 2 got kind of crazy, and then Part 3 kind of roped it back into that kind of vision of people surviving a war and really treating it, you know, as realistically as you can. Sounds like they're going that route with Gears of War 4, which really intrigues me. I'm just not really convinced that this is that big of a franchise. I feel like it was of a time and a place. And I think if you look at the sales of the games, it's true, even though, you know, it went from Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 being the best selling. But, you know, Judgment is kind of where everyone was like, I don't know if I really want to play that. And it's not just because it was kind of a subpar Gears of War game. I really believe it's because people just, I don't think they're really all that attached to this franchise. Like, maybe they're attached to some of the weapons. Maybe they remember some fun scenes. But I don't think the characters, except for Coltrane, really stand out as meaningful additions to the overall video game culture. That's not to disparage the game. It was incredibly important for its time. I just don't feel like this is something that really needs to carry on to the next generation. You feel like they need something new. And I'm going to give credit to Microsoft. They certainly have tried with things like Sunset Overdrive to create new franchises that they can you know, carry through the entire generation. But, you know, going back to Gears of War, good luck. October 11th, we'll find out. Doot doot. From one GOW to another GOW, God of War 4 had a leaked screenshot, a number of them. It was from a Sony Santa Monica studio concept artist who has actually left that studio, put up their portfolio online, and people are like, that looks like God of War, but what's going on here? There's a reference to Alfheim, apparently the land of fairies is what it is, but that's a Norse mythology, not a Greek mythology. Kratos, now he's part of Greek mythology, at least in this day and age. And so there are a lot of hints that yes, there's going to be a God of War 4, and it's going to basically be Kratos taking on Norse gods, which sounds amazing and sounds a lot like what the original concept for God of War 3 was going to be, going through and fighting different mythologies, including like Egyptian and of course Norse. And that was such a cool idea. It never actually came to fruition, so it's kind of cool they're getting a second chance here. Though, you know, once again, I hate to say it, I like God of War a lot. Feels kind of weird we're taking these franchises and bringing them over to the next generation. Like, you gotta make new franchises. You gotta kind of roll the dice. And I understand things like Order 1886 didn't blow everyone's minds. I thought it was a perfectly fine game. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Yes, it had a terrible ending, but you know, these are old things. I mean, God of War, it came out on the PlayStation 2, for God's sakes. It's been a decade. Do we really need more adventures from Kratos? Can we not just let them lie just a little bit longer? Maybe in a decade or so, take a look and maybe reinvent the franchise. Whatever. Hey, it's up to them. It's their money. If they want to spend it on making more God of War games, go ahead, Sony. Doot doot. Bad news if you wanted to play Umbrella Corps. What's that? You don't know what Umbrella Corps is? Oh, I'm sorry. Allow me to explain. That's that Resident Evil spin-off. What's that? You still don't remember this? You know, where you play as, like, you know, SWAT team soldiers running around familiar locations from the Resident Evil series, and it's like a third-person squad-based shooter. No? Well, it was going to be released in May, next month. Now it's coming out on June 21st. Okay. Well, you know, it's only going to be $30, so look for it. Doot doot. This is one of my favorite stories of the week. Greg Zelchuk? He was one of the co-founders from BioWare. And then he took all of his money and left the company. This was a long time ago that he did that. He was being interviewed, and they brought up the concept of the PlayStation 4K and the Xbox One or Xbox 2 or whatever, the upgradable consoles, the new versions, the new SKUs of the current generation, a more powerful version of the current generation. Here's what he had to say, and I love this. I'd say That'd be a gigantic pain in the ass that flies in the face of the purpose of consoles. The whole purpose of consoles is the set of requirements that you work against from a hardware perspective. To change that is complete lunacy. And I have to agree with them. That's the thing, is that when you look at, I brought this up before, and I hate to say I'm repeating myself, but this is very important. Look at the early PlayStation 3 games. In fact, what we were just talking about, God of War, Gears of War. Sorry, they kind of blur together. Look at the very first Gears of War on the Xbox 360, and then look at Gears of War 3, also on the Xbox 360. What happened? Did they get better artists? Were the other artists like drawing with crayons, and they came in with the pots and the pans, banging them together and saying, out, 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 we got good artists, and they scattered along and the good artists took over? No, it's that the technology, it's not even about cores being unlocked. I always hear about, oh, they finally unlocked the next core on the PlayStation 4. Oh, this is going to change everything. Oh, yeah, very interesting. No. What it is that developers become more familiar with the hardware, and they know how to squeeze every last bit of power out of that system. And so I have to agree. Once you just make it more powerful, you've kind of ruined the point of consoles. And it would be, he says it would be a giant pain in the ass for developers, and I totally agree, because then it's just like, well, all this work we put into this, it's kind of irrelevant now. I mean, I guess if it's going to be, the PlayStation 4K games are also going to play on PlayStation 4, and this is all hypothetical. For all we know, Sony's never going to announce or release this, but all that work that you put in there, it's meaningless now. For no reason, because now we have essentially a new console in a lot of ways, even if it's just upgraded. Look at what happened with the new Nintendo 3DS. Which, by the way, I saw firsthand that Hyrule Warriors on the 3DS game, just wow. That game runs like garbage. Doot doot. Legacy of Kain. It's a series that's beloved by many people. Maybe not many. Some people. Some people like it. I liked it back in the day. I thought it was fun. Well, remember when they announced that they were going to have that MMO Nosgoth? And it was actually being developed by Synox, the people behind Rocket League. Bad news. They actually they put up a statement recently saying, it is with regret that today we can confirm that the development for Nosgoth has officially ceased, and we are winding down support for the game. It has been a pleasure to build this game with your help, but ultimately its audience hasn't grown enough to sustain ongoing operations. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. It just didn't pull in a big enough audience to really rationalize the amount of money being put in there. Or maybe you decided to make multiple Final Fantasy VII games. Toot toot. Well, I don't know if you guys caught this earlier this week, but there was actually a really cool kind of like isometric third-person version of Zelda that was released on a web browser. It kind of looked like 3D Game Hero. I don't know if you guys remember that game. It was released on the PlayStation 3. Super cool game. But they remade the original Zelda, and it was the original graphics, but it was in 3D. So they were the weird blocky characters running around this really colorful, cool world. Well, unfortunately, it has been shut down by Nintendo. Here's a quote from the developers behind the project. Nintendo asked us to remove this site for copyright infringement. I guess Zelda 30 Tribute was a little too pixel perfect. No complaints from us. We had a blast working on this tribute and made some friends along the way. I get it. I really do. I know a lot of people are going to get upset about this, like, oh, Nintendo, why did you have to take that down? But you have to take down anything that infringes on your copyright. It really sucks. It's an unfortunate occurrence, a frequent occurrence, because if you don't do it then, and let's say you do find the next bit of infringement objectionable, they can go to court and be like, well, why didn't you take down that Zelda game? You know, it sucks, but that's really what it comes down to. You're creating legal precedent for when you go after other people. Still doesn't explain why Sega takes down YouTube videos, but hey, whatever. There's a bit of an example for you. Doot doot. Blizzard has shut down World of Warcraft servers. These were fan servers, part of the Nautilus Begins team. Okay, I don't play World of Warcraft. Is that obvious? But they created these servers so that you could play vanilla World of Warcraft, the very first version of World of Warcraft, which obviously had a ton of expansions and really changed the way the game is played through big events like Cataclysm. Well, these people created servers that could play the original game, so hopefully people could just enjoy it the way they like it, because some people didn't like the way World of Warcraft went. Well, here's a quote from the people behind the vanilla servers. Everything needed in order to set up your own Nosferos. It's just made up word, doesn't matter. They just won't be leading. Oh, they won't be actually supplying the servers. They're just giving people everything that they need. We don't know if you truly felt like it was the glory days while playing here, but we hope that you will keep good memories of the time spent here. Why did Blizzard do this? See the last story. There you go. There's your explanation. Doot doot. Earlier this week, the Beavis and Butthead arcade game was discovered and has gone to Galloping Ghost. But it was right where I am just today. I was looking at it. I played it yesterday, and I was watching it today. Actually got to interview some people from Galloping Ghosts. That game, wait till you see it. It is a trip. It is something else. I will say the coolest thing about that game, because I'll just being frank, it's a beat 'em up with like mini games. The beat 'em up portions are pretty bad and really confusing and don't really pertain to anything having to do with Beavis and Butthead. But when no one's playing the machine, Beavis and Butthead are in their classic kind of like blue circles, you know, like the start of the show, and they just keep saying stuff like, "Yeah, give us money, yeah, yeah." I'm not gonna do an impersonation. That's the closest you're gonna get. Let's close it up with the games that are gonna be out this week. On Tuesday, Dark Souls 3. That's getting worth it. But really, if I play 10 hours of that game, I feel like I'm only going to be in one place for like half of that time. But look forward for that episode of Worth It. That'll be out on Friday. And this Tuesday, Ratchet & Clank is being released on PlayStation 4. You'll be able to see my episode of Worth It on that next Tuesday. I really am looking forward to both of these games. This is going to be a fun week. Maybe not fun when it comes to Dark Souls 3, but you know, it'll be an entertaining week. Let's just say that. On Thursday, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture will be released on PC. PC fans, I want to let you know, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is a fantastic walking simulator. Great story, great music, great voice acting, really, really gorgeous graphics in some areas. Really slow walking speed. So do me a favor. Do me a favor. Create a mod for Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and let that main character just zip along that landscape. Please do. Boop, boop. That's going to do it for the hype train. This is going to be a shorter episode, as you can probably tell from the runtime. Maybe it'll still be an hour. I don't know. But I would like to not take any breaks this week, just in case you're wondering. Hey, go to iTunes, give the PRESSURECAST 5 stars and a written review. That helps us out tremendously. But it is time to talk about the games of the week. Real quick, I played Dead Star. That is a game that is free on PlayStation Plus. It is a top-down space shooter where you select your ship. You can choose from 3 different types of ships, although there are actually 9 varieties of said ships. So like 3 big ones, 2 mining ones, and 1 really zippy small one that all have their own unique weapons and just kind of movement. And what you do if you play online, because I mostly played online, is it's a team of 5 against another team of 5. There's these hexagons. I think there are 7 of them, like 3 on one side, 3 on the other, and 1 in the center. And the ones on the polar opposite sides have a home base. And your goal is to get over there and blow up their base. That's basically what the game is. However, when the game starts off, you actually have the goal of taking over all these other hexagons, creating home bases, essentially creating spawn points for you, but they're guarded by AI. The AI is not too smart, so you can just get in there and take care of business. However, what's cool about it is that every time you take over these bases or you drop off more ore, you level up, and it gets you more abilities. So you start off with like a little pea shooter, and as it progresses, it's like, oh, I can shoot faster now, and oh, the ship is now can drop EMPs and make other ships lose their shields because it's got like shield and basic health there. And it's just so much fun leveling up, and especially when you're playing as the mining type, which can hold a lot of ore, which are these green like glowing things they have to go and collect. It's just great going around mining for resources. It feels like there's so many different ways to be useful in that game, and I really appreciate it. So if you have PlayStation Plus and you have a PlayStation 4, I highly recommend you check out Dead Star. Or if you have a PC, it's available on there, and there is PlayStation 4 and PC compatibility, like online compatibility, kind of like Rocket League. I really enjoy that game, and I really want to just take this moment to get on my soapbox and say, hey, PlayStation, you're doing it right. This is what people often mistake. I'll agree. When I saw the PlayStation Plus lineup, I was a little underwhelmed, but I was like, hey, no, there's still a couple of really cool games on here, and it's nowhere near none of the games are of the same monetary value as something like Sunset Overdrive on Xbox One, right? But Dead Star is an online game. And by releasing an online game on PlayStation Plus, a game that I think a lot of people would take 2 seconds to look at and go like, I don't know, that game doesn't look like it's for me. But by having it be free and having people download it and having people play online, you've created an online community, a reason to go back to your PlayStation 4. So I think really all of these games that at least one of the PlayStation 4 releases every single month should be an online game. Build an online community. Really get people engaged with playing online on the PlayStation. Because that's how you retain an audience. That's really the way you do it, is by allowing them to feel like there's always a game going on. Single player titles. I love single player titles. I like single player more than multiplayer, generally. There's, of course, a few exceptions, like Street Fighter, which is my love. I love you, Street Fighter. I wish I had more time to play you. But for the most part, I prefer single-player games. But multiplayer games, there's something incredibly special about them. But the only way that they're worth playing is when the community is there. Because otherwise, you'll have a very narrow community, and you'll just get on there and get destroyed. Like, say, I don't know, if you're playing Street Fighter V right now, as opposed to when it came out. You can't go online without getting just knocked off a few pegs. So yes, good job there. All right, now the second game, of course, that I have to talk about this week is Quantum Break, which I did an episode of Worth It for, and I think that went up Friday. Okay, so Quantum Break is this game where you play as Jack Joyce, who's this guy who gets magical time powers, and you use these powers to shoot a lot of people and stop your former best friend from... I'm honestly not sure what he was supposed to be doing. I'm not going to spoil anything here. What's crazy about this game is that in between these chapters, they have these like 22-minute live action sequences. They're basically TV episodes in your game. And you'll have these opportunities to make these choices, like one at every chapter, that will somehow influence the game and the TV show. Like, oh, wow, okay. The problem is that the TV show starts off, okay, you're getting to know these characters. They're basically telling you, this is what I value. That's what's really going on, is they're saying, this is what I value. This is what's important to me. This is my motivation. And in episode 2, they sort of just reaffirm that. They reaffirm, this is what I value. This is what's important to me. This is why I do what I do. They do another video. It starts getting kind of weird. They stop doing the things that they value. They start actually going against their own values without any sort of reason. No reason at all. It's shocking to watch. It's like, what? And then by episode 4, it is just on fire with people behaving stupidly. I can't give you an example because I don't want to spoil it. But just imagine, the thing I valued most was a Cadbury egg, right? I just love this Cadbury egg. In episode 1, I'm just telling you, I love the Cadbury egg. In episode 2, I sense danger, so I'm running from the danger with my Cadbury egg. And then episode 3, I don't know, I start running towards the danger with the Cadbury egg. And then episode 4, I am putting the Cadbury egg, I'm almost using it as a shield. Like, it is shockingly stupid. I think that's the exact wording I used in the episode of Worth It. And it's funny because I've seen a lot of people online, and there's always going to be people that are going to defend a game, no matter what it's like. But they're saying like, the reason people don't like this game is they're not playing it right, which is a hilarious excuse. You just weren't playing it right. Darn. The game was really good. It's your fault the game isn't good because you don't know how to play it. Oh, that's wonderful. No, the problem is that this third-person shooter, which is a cover-based shooter, they are constantly reminding you to use cover because they put up chest-high walls. Okay? A lot of people are saying, oh, you're not supposed to use cover. You're supposed to use this bubble shield because you have this bubble shield ability, right? And you also have this another ability to basically throw these time bubbles and shoot at them, which explode and take out a lot of people. Or you can dash really fast and go in front of cover. Like they show you dashing in front of cover. They're obviously encouraging you to use cover. Or you can do the sprint move, which allows you to like run up and melee attack somebody. Or what was the other one? Like there's a giant time bomb. You can look around the room like in detective mode under time vision. Whatever. The problem is, all of these abilities, everything that's going on in this game, people say, oh, wow, it's so crazy. It's like, no, it's not. Even if you chain all these abilities together, it's just every other third-person shooter out there. And I know some people will go, oh, how can you say that? The time abilities are so different. Oh, no. No, it's basically the exact same thing as every other shooter. So when I throw my time bubble and it explodes because I shot at it, is that really that different from throwing a grenade? Or is that throwing a grenade with an extra step? When I'm sprinting through time, trying to avoid the bullets and get over to another side, am I really doing something different? Or am I just sprinting like every other third-person shooter? That's kind of the problem with the game, is that you can literally map these systems one-to-one with like abilities that are in every other third-person shooter, for the most part. Obviously there's going to be some exceptions, like being able to create your own bubble is pretty cool. Like as a defensive maneuver, I will give them credit there. Shooting feels okay. Weapons are pretty limited. They basically all have the exact same range when it comes to shooting, which is actually pretty disappointing. But the shooting somebody feels okay, right? But the use of cover is really awkward because he automatically ducks. And he never sticks to the surroundings. He's always getting shot at the entire time. That's not great. And just, I don't know, the weapons. And I don't know. Go watch the video. I don't know what else to say. It feels incredibly generic by the time it all wraps up. And the TV show is not very good. The story is not very good. I feel bad for the actors. They have two of the actors from the amazing television show, The Shield. And I am not one of those people that buys in the hype. But The Shield is a fantastic television series. I'm one of those people that's like, Breaking Bad's overrated. It's not that good. I really believe that. Breaking Bad's kind of racist, too, which is really, once you recognize it, it's kind of unnerving when it's like, oh, look, the white guy outsmarted him again. It's like, this is kind of awkward here. But yeah, The Wire is a fantastic show. So it's kind of cool seeing some of those actors from The Wire being in this video game, even if the video game itself is just not great. Not great. Really bad dialogue, too. Shockingly bad dialogue. Okay. Let's get outside to a little place that's always warm with the glow of cold, hard cash. That's right. It's time for the Chart Park, the land where money grows on trees. Yes, the Chart Park. This is the part where we talk about business, legal, and financial news in the video game industry, and we find out which fat cats of Wall Street will tip their top hats towards Lady Luck, kicking it off with Rock Band 4. It was on Fig, and it did not receive full funding. It raised only $800,000, and I forget what it did. I think it would need to raise, what was it, like 1.4 million or something like that, and Harmonix was going to kind of match them. It was only going to cover half of the development. Well, unfortunately, it did not meet the requirements to be a successful Fig Kickstarter, whatever you want to call it, Fig crowdfunding. And they put out a statement, Harmonix did, saying, how do we feel about the end of the campaign? Disappointed, obviously. There's no shortage of people at Harmonix who love Rock Band, and some of us got extra excited at the prospect of bringing back Rock Band Network, and even more are getting the chance to expose Rock Band to a brand new audience. But as an independent developer, we have to be careful about how much money and development time we risk on a project we're not sure has a big enough audience, and crowdfunding allowed us to, among other things, judge the market fit for the Rock Band PC. Here's the thing. Rock Band PC, it's too late. This was supposed to happen 7 years ago. You can't just come into that market right now because they don't have the fondness for the game. Presumably they don't have the fondness for Rock Band that console owners do. And it's really no surprise to me. And I don't blame them for trying, because they already had Rock Band 4 finished. So it's like, well, we could port it over to PC and it'll be less expensive than making a new game. I gotta say, as a real Rock Band fan, as a true fan of harmonics, I am deeply concerned about the direction of this company. I am truly, truly concerned that they will not exist in just a few years. And that would not be surprising, because what have they done that's been a hit in so long? Now, I will say that the Dance Central game on Xbox One is amazing, but by that point, no one wanted Kinect games. They hated the Kinect. They actually had to take it out of the box to sell Xbox One. So it's so unfair that happened to them, because I feel like that would have... I mean, I don't know if it would have convinced anybody to like the Kinect, but I think a lot of people would have really embraced and enjoyed that game. You can play Pharrell Williams Happy on there, which I do. All by myself, in my room, just dancing. You have to do this thing with your hands when you do little like choo-choo, you know. But this ain't the hype train. This is the chart bark, so we better move on. IKEA has released a VR game. That is right. According to the press release, find the drawers that can be opened, pick up a frying pan, and place it on the stove. Recycle the vegetable skins in the waste storage station. My God. I want to get this right out of the way here. IKEA going into VR is terrible. I can't believe they did this. Not because the game's going to be bad. Obviously, the ability to find a pot and like throw away stuff in the garbage is amazing. I'm concerned because VR is really just starting to take off, and they've already released the best VR game ever. You're jerks. All these developers have to just cancel all their projects, because who is going to play something with like giant robots or first-person shooters when you can play in the kitchen in virtual reality? Have you guys ever even been inside of a kitchen? No, you haven't. Now IKEA is giving you that opportunity through the magic of virtual reality. There's no reason for any more VR games. I'm sorry. That's it. I just hope it ends up on PlayStation VR, and oh God, I hope it does. Otherwise, I'm just going to cancel that pre-order. The next story is once again Mike Kennedy. You might remember him from the Coleco Chameleon, the Never system that never existed, but he kept being insistent it did exist. You know, this retro system where you play new games that are designed for cartridges, taking you back to the old school, you know, before games needed patches, because who needs patches? Well, they showed off a number of Coleco Chameleons at different trade shows, and it always turned out that it was just a bunch of parts that obviously did not add up to a working system. This guy has been playing Koi forever, and he put out a statement to finally end this bizarre odyssey of the Coleco Chameleon. These past few months with these fake prototypes was inexcusable, and I hope you can all understand a bit more about how this all happened and why I have remained silent the past few weeks. Okay. You'll be glad to hear that I am officially tabling the console venture for good. I want to ask you all for some level of forgiveness, and I hope you understand I would have never gone to Kickstarter with a blatant ripoff of a prototype. That's the thing, to go to Kickstarter, you actually have to have like a prototype of your system. And he kept saying, "Oh yeah, I got a prototype. I got a prototype. Hey, can we see it? Can we see the prototype? Oh yeah, here's a picture. It's really blurry. Can we see another picture? Yeah, give me a few weeks. I'll see you later. Wait, where are you going? I'm back. Hey, look at this photo. That is just as blurry, sir, if not more blurry. Well, we're gonna be at this convention. Is that a PCI board and a video capture? What? That's not a console. Yeah. I hope you can forgive me. Like, what was that? What was that entire scenario? Speaking of forgiveness, let's move over to Donald Trump. He never asked for forgiveness, and he never gives forgiveness. He's one cold-blooded mother. Well, he recently had this fan-made posted video of his election. What am I don't like that. Let's start this sentence over. You know, I don't like this transition. Hey, Mass Effect 2. Do you remember Mass Effect 2? Awesome. Donald Trump. Do you know who that is? Awesome. Well, A fan made some sort of promotional video for Donald Trump featuring the elusive man from Mass Effect 2. EA was like, no, you can't do that. And according to EA, the video was an unauthorized use of our IP. We do not support our assets being used in political campaigns. They had the video taken down. It was known as Trump Effect. Once again, they are doing this probably not because it's political, but because if something is legally actionable, you must action on it. Here are the top 20 best-selling games on PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, and PlayStation 3. We're going to be doing the top 3 for each. So on the PlayStation 4, the best-selling games in the month of March were as follows. Number 3, Rocket League. Number 2, Salt and Sanctuary. And number 1, Tom Clancy's The Division. I am shocked to see Salt and Sanctuary at number 2. That's a game I played a little bit of. I did not like it. I did not enjoy it. I do not understand why people do. And I like Dark Souls, so go figure. On the PlayStation 3, the best-selling games were in this order. Number 3, Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Number 2 was The Last of Us. And number 1 was Alice Madness Returns. Quick question. Why are you downloading Drake's Fortune? It is... it must be cheaper. It must be cheaper to simply walk down the street to the GameStop and buy a copy for 99 cents or whatever it is. Right? Whatever. You're taking up hard drive space. Whatever. On the Vita, Digimon Cyber Sleuth. Woo woo. That Digimon Cyber Sleuth. Such a good game. Such a good game. That's my song for it. Number 2, Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation. Okay, if you want to play that, I guess you could. That's that Vita exclusive, then turned, PC port of that weird Assassin's Creed 3 game. Didn't hear too many good things about it. And number 1 is Jak and Daxter Collection. Way to go, Vita owners. You bought the worst collection available on the Vita. Arguably, Jak and Daxter Collection on the Vita is, from all accounts, truly atrocious. Bad frame rates and weird textures, and not worth your time. Now, here are the best-selling PlayStation 1 / PlayStation 2 classics. Number 3 was Fatal Frame 3, The Tormented. Number 2 was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I guess people really like... Why are more people buying... Vice City. Vice City's not even on this list. That disgusts me. And number 1 is Bully. I love Bully. Bully's a great game. Here's something kind of interesting. We have, once again, the top 10 trending games according to YouTube. And I want you to keep these in mind. I'm going to read them in their entirety. I really want you to keep this in mind for the next list that we're going towards. Number 10 was Disney Infinity 3.0. Number 9 was Subnautica. I've never actually played that or heard of it. Number 8 was Minecraft Story Mode. Number 7 was Stardew Valley. Number 6 was Pokken Tournament. Number 5 was Dark Souls 3. Number 4 was EA Sports UFC 2. Number 3 was Clash Royale. Number 2 was Mortal Kombat X. And number 1 was The Division. Now follow me over to the UK for a moment here. The cursed land of fish and chips. Here are their best-selling games. Number 10, Plants vs. Zombies, Garden Warfare 2. Number 9, Lego Marvel Avengers. Number 8, Rainbow Six Siege. Number 7, Star Wars Battlefront. Number 6 was EA Sports UFC 2. Right? You follow me with this so far? Awesome. Number 5 was Call of Duty Black Ops 3. Number 4 was Grand Theft Auto 5. Number 3 was FIFA 16. Number 2 was Far Cry Primal. And number 1 was The Division. Now, I'm a big believer that YouTube really does influence sales in a lot of meaningful ways. However, I think that this month's list is actually a little bit different. The reason why I believe Mortal Kombat X is trending so high is because, well, they have all that DLC, so obviously people are not going to be able to buy that at the store. I mean, they could buy that, complete edition or whatever they call it. They had some sort of clever name for it. But the number 1 being Division on YouTube, I think is because the people watching these videos, as well as Clash Royale, which is number 3, which is a free game. You can go download it on your phone right now. Is because they already own the game and they are looking for tips and strategies and locations of specific items. So it's very interesting to me that it seems like the charts are actually influencing YouTube rather than the other way around. Something like Grand Theft Auto, 5 selling extremely well in the UK and not appearing in the YouTube list, that's kind of surprising for me, because I have to imagine a lot of those people are buying it for Grand Theft Auto Online, which is a really awesome game. Grand Theft Auto Online. Grand Theft Auto 5 I'm not a big fan of. Real talk. Now are the top 10 best-selling games in Japan. Number 10 is Winning Post 8. Number 9 is Atsasu Kiyoshitu Assassin Ikose Kekukuku. Number 8 is Minecraft PlayStation Vita Edition. Number 7 is Hatsune Project Diva X on the Vita. Number 6 is Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. What? I've already told you, Japan. Knock it off. Stop buying those on the 3DS. Number 5 is Pokken Tournament. Whatever, Japan, that game is for jabronis. Number 4 is Dark Souls 3. Number 3 is Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 3. Number 2 is Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness on the PlayStation 4. Looking forward to that because that's coming to the United States. That's the first Star Ocean game in quite some time. And number 1 is Yokai Sangokushi. That's right, there's a brand new Yokai game. I actually got... Let me see if I still have this on me right now. I don't know if I can pull this up. Obviously, you listeners at home will not be able to see this, but anyone that's watching the video will see that I got a certain pin when I was at Midwest Gaming Classic. It's a cat. I got the cat. I actually don't know the name of the cat, but he's actually a really cool character. And I also got the one of those cardboard stands, the cardboard stands that they usually have at video game shops. Now I have one of those in my possession. I only spent like 8 hours playing Yokai Watch, but man, I really liked Yokai Watch. That was a great game. Well, let's look at the top 10 best-selling games in Japan. Number 1 was PlayStation 4 with 33,440. Number 2 was new Nintendo 3DS LL with 19,874. Number 3 was PlayStation Vita with 17,709. Number 4 was new Nintendo 3DS with 5,196. Number 5 was Wii U, 2,678. Number 6 was PlayStation 3 with 1,170. Number 7 was Nintendo 3DS with 304. Number 8 was Nintendo 3DS LL with 146. Number 9 was Xbox One with 87. And in last place, even though it's discontinued, this is shocking, PlayStation Vita TV with 32. 32! I want you to just go and, I'm not going to tell you, because obviously, off the top of my head, I don't know, but just look up how many people live in Japan. 32 of those people, presumably, unless it was one person with, enough money for 32 Vita TVs. 32 people of the entire nation of Japan were like, yeah, I'll buy one of those. Holy crap. And that's going to do it for the Chart Park, the land where money grows on trees. Oh, yeah. I'm going to drink some water here. My throat's being destroyed. It's been a weird couple of weeks. With the podcast and videos and everything should be getting back to normal soon. I hope. It feels like every week it's something completely different. And it's like a brand new skill that I have to learn. Life is kind of like an RPG. One time I was at a coffee shop and I looked over and I saw these two old guys playing chess. And one of them just looked up and was like, life is kind of like a game of chess. I just burst out laughing. Like the most generic thing you could ever say to sound deep. Life is kind of like chess, huh? Or saying life is like anything. Let's get tiny. It's time for Pocket Talk. Pocket Talk, Pocket Talk. We only have one story in Pocket Talk this week, and it has to do with the FBI. Now, recently they were able to crack the phone, the Apple phone, the iPhone of the San Bernardino shooter. According to the New York Times, the FBI has not shared the solution with Apple to date. So they were able to crack open the iPhone. They have not told Apple how they did it yet, which is rather alarming because the way things work, operating systems are technically the property of the developer of that operating system. Legally speaking, if I'm not mistaken, but legally speaking, I believe it is the FBI's duty to report back to that the holder of that property, in this case an iOS, and report to them how they cracked it. Seems really important. But will the FBI do that? Because if the FBI wants to get into other phones, why would they do that? Because then that means that Apple could potentially patch out that capability. Oh dear. I don't know. That's it. Just think about that for a second and just question, what the future is going to bring. It's a terrifying world out there, and everything that you've done for the past couple of years, more than that, is located right in your pocket, and now can be accessed by the government. Not saying it's a good or a bad thing, it's just a fact. And that's going to do it for Pocket Talk, Pocket Talk, Pocket Talk. Let's take the mushroom. Now, I'm being a complete moron this week because I am so tired. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be recording this episode. I really shouldn't be. But I have to, because I owe it to you. I owe it to you. I'm trying to give you the best episode I can right now. That's what I always try and do. Give you the best I can give you, you know? But nevertheless, I'm acting like a complete jackass. But I'm not as stupid as the idiot of the week. That's right. This idiot of the week, once again, we were talking about the government. We were talking about politics. Is the... What in the hell happened here? Oh, I actually touched something and it flipped me back all the way over here. Wow, this really is the idiot of the week. No kidding. This is the California Representative Duncan Hunter. People might know him as the vaping state representative. He likes to vape. Big deal. I'm not judging him. That's not why he's the idiot of the week. However, a couple of eyebrows have been raised over at the Federal Election Commission due to the fact that Hunter apparently spent $1,302 of campaign funds on Steam games over, or to be exact, 68 separate charges. So 68 times he had to be like, yeah, all right, it's not a big deal, I'll just spend this money. Of course, this was listed as a personal expense to be paid back. He, of course, did this back in 2015, and now some people are really starting to say, maybe he should resign. That's pretty damn questionable. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of government officials that do highly, highly, highly questionable things. And they should also be scrutinized for their behavior. They should also have to deal with the proposal of resignation. However, it's pretty blatant. When you take, $1,300 and you just go to Steam and you buy games, I mean, it's one thing to murder somebody and bury them in the woods. It's very hard to connect all the dots. But it's when it's your profile and you spend $1,300 68 different times. What the hell is wrong with you? You can't do that. That's why you're a representative, because people thought, I could probably trust this guy to do something. You just broke that bond of trust. How are people ever supposed to rely on you to vote with some sort of value when you are spending your campaign money on video games? I like video games. You guys like video games, but you can't do that. If you found out he spent all that money at a casino, you'd be like, well, what a jackass. If you found out he spent all that money going to the movies, you'd be like, what a jackass. I understand that him spending it on video games slightly skews the perspective for some people, saying, not that big of a deal, but you know what? No. Duncan Hunter, which, by the way, hilarious name. I don't know why. It makes me laugh. Not judging, just, well, I am, but not trying to be malicious here. Duncan Hunter, for spending over $1,300 on 68 separate Steam purchases that was intended to go into your campaign, you are undoubtedly the idiot of the week. Dumbass. It's time to listen back from the listeners. It's time to talk back to the viewers. A little segment we like to call Thank You for the Email. This email, actually, I forgot to copy the name. Good for me. I actually don't remember the name of this person, but he actually left a YouTube comment. I felt it was worth reading. It's also incredibly long, but hey, I just feel like doing it, so whatever. Please do not take this as an example of how long your email should be. Shorten to the point. 3 to 5 sentences. Make it, 140 characters if possible. That would be amazing. And also don't leave them on YouTube. Like, actually email them. I just saw this and was like, I think this is worth. Last week we were talking about the dismissal of Allison Rapp from Nintendo Treehouse following all of the months and months and months of harassment she had received because people did not understand who she was or what her job was. They thought that somehow she was involved in censorship of video games, which was really just editing, but of removing elements from games that people want, like being able to enhance the bust size of a 13-year-old girl in Xenoblade Chronicles X. Whatever. Here's what this viewer had to say. With the whole Allison Rapp mess, yeah, it sucks to lose your job in any circumstance. However, cases like Rapp is just another example of how a number of game companies have a shitty screening process when they hire people. Not even accounting the CP statements, child porn, statements she made, her own actions damned her when she voluntarily posted those lewd pics of herself up on her public Twitter account. The same account she used with her PR rep job at Nintendo. Someone was bound to say something eventually, especially when the person posting those pics didn't put much effort to hide it either. I have not seen these pictures. I don't know what's going on. I tried looking this up and I could not find anything on it. As for the idea of a screening process in Nintendo, I'm not really sure what they could have done. You know, quite frankly, in terms of that, it's hiring her as an employee. I'm not sure what could have prevented that. Her opinions on sexuality, I'm not sure how that would prevent her from getting that job. You know, but and maybe perhaps it is just a case of my hypothetical situation is this had to do with something maybe from Nintendo of Japan, you know, Nintendo headquarters rather than Nintendo of America. I don't know. It goes on though. There's been also stories of her somewhat butting heads with Nintendo prior to the recent drama. They had issues with her tattoos and also using her Twitter account to speak out against rape culture. It all comes down with her having some specific standards when working with a company like Nintendo. Here's my thing. I'm not, and this is a very respectful email. Me and the person here disagree. And that is fine. And that is what I really appreciate about this message, because I don't agree with any of these points. However, it's not pushy. It's not attacking me. It's really not attacking her in any way. But her speaking out against rape culture, if Nintendo has an issue with that, I find that incredibly problematic. That Nintendo doesn't need to get out there and say, we're against rape culture. They don't need to do that. But I really, if this has anything to do with her making these statements, I find that rather troubling that Nintendo would, in a way, push her out because of that. For having any sort of opinion. I find that really troubling. By the way, we're not doing any more emails about Allison Rapp next week. So please don't respond to this. We're going back to the email. Blaming Gamergate and this white supremacist group for Rapp's termination for the most part is a bit immature, and you're giving them more power than they actually have. With GG as vocal as they are, they couldn't even get NOA to fix the lacking localization for FE Fate. So how can they get someone fired from their job exactly? And the saddest thing that this tactic isn't even new nor originated by GG. And with this white supremacist group, what relevance do they have in gaming? They're not even much of a white supremacist group if they're trying to get a white woman fired. If anything, they're more like trolls. One would see. So here's the thing. I understand how this might be a bit confusing. If I walked up to a white supremacist and I was like, you know what? I am so happy that we live in a country right now that is, at least in some ways, attempting to create equality amongst all races, all genders, all orientations. I think that's wonderful. They're going to have a bone to pick with me. And Allison Rapp, unfortunately, she is a feminist. And the thing is, white supremacist groups, not really a fan of feminism. Not really a fan of that. And you know, you have to understand that this whole Gamergate thing stems from hate culture. It really does. I mean, it's specifically going after women. And I think when you say, what does this have to do with video games? I think you're right on the point there. It doesn't really have anything to do with video games at all. You know, it's because these people, unfortunately, discriminate. They do, and they are going after these people involving video games because a lot of people that, for whatever reason, a lot of people that play video games were very, easy to jump on that bandwagon. They just agreed with them, and I that's why I'm often troubled by this, because I think people don't realize what they're promoting. Yeah. As for, hey, don't give Gamergate too much power. I mean, they weren't even able to change the localization for Fire Emblem, which Fire Emblem had this thing with face touching they got rid of, and changing. They deleted an entire subplot from the game and the way a certain character behaves. That's just it. Like, Nintendo's never going to bow down to that. They're going to be like, no, we're making our fucking game the way we want to make it. However, I do think that this did influence the firing of Allison Rapp. They're very different things. One is a product that they are releasing out into the world, and then the other is an employee that they would prefer no one pay attention to, which is, that's just their policy. They've always been rather secretive about their employees. They trust Reggie to come out on stage. Hello, I'm Reggie. They don't, or Bill Trinan. They have their hand-picked people that they want in front of a camera and in the public eye, and she was not one of them. So that is probably that. I think that deeply influenced it. Back to the email. When it all comes down to it, Rapp doesn't have anything else to blame for termination but herself. If the harassment was as serious as people are making it out to be, this shit would have been reported to Nintendo or taken to the likes of the FBI a long time ago. Never mind the fact that Allison Rapp wasn't exactly the best PR person among other valid issues people had with her. There's just a lack of taking personal responsibility for one's actions, and a lack of accountability, which seems to be running wild in gaming. I want to, and like I said, thank you. I forget who wrote this. I appreciate all the respectful tone that you took here. I just don't think it's right to blame her. I really, 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 truly don't. Unless we get all the details. Until we get all the details, which will never happen. But when we get all the details and we found out exactly what took place, can't really make a definitive statement. All I can tell you is my feelings. All right, and that's the best I could do. My feelings. And when I look at this, I see someone who I don't agree with. I don't agree with Allison Rapp's views on animated child pornography, which should be specified. That's what she was talking about, animated child pornography, or how she feels about the public persecution of pedophiles. I don't agree with her there either, but she can only blame herself for this termination. And I don't know, man. Nintendo is not one of those companies that, when I look at them, I don't see a company that is very, I don't know. They don't look out the window very often. I feel like they're very internal. I feel like they're stuck in their ways. And that when you have someone, feminism is one of those things that it's attempting to make social change. And I don't believe for a second Nintendo wants to have any part of that. They don't like being part of change. Strangely enough. Maybe they do with their hardware. Maybe they like to change the way their games play. But as a company, they do not seem to want to be associated with anything that impacts society at large. They want to be a friend to everybody, which is admirable in some ways, but kind of cowardly in other ways. As for the harassment she was receiving, I don't know. Just look it up on Twitter. Look at there are all these screen caps of her conversations and of her statements. People digging through her personal details in life. Even the moonlighting that she was doing was discovered and reported to Nintendo by one of those people. Nintendo knew this was happening. They knew this was happening. That's exactly why they put out that statement saying, like, oh, yeah, we know all about that. That's not why she got fired. There's a reason that they responded that way. So I don't know. I can't be on board with that idea that, I will never downplay what she went through, because it's terrible. I think she had a stiff upper lip, and she was like, fuck you guys, I don't care. She bit back. And was that right or wrong of her to do that as a public relations person? I don't know. They were attacking her personally. She was not representing Nintendo. When people go after you personally, I think that's when things change. I think that's inexcusable. When people are digging up your personal information and making these giant, images to explain why you should be despised and hated, and spreading it across the internet to make you an enemy of the general public, I think you got free reign to be like, I don't respect you guys. You guys are trash. Go for it. I think that's when, they're bullies. That's what it is. They're bullies, and they bullied her. And I believe, because no one has a definitive answer, I believe that's why she was fired. So whoever this was, I'm sorry I didn't get your name down. I do want to just say thank you for the email. We're not talking about Allison Rapp anymore. In the email section, at least. That was it. Because I just know. It's funny? Today I got a bunch of tweets about something I said about Allison Rapp on Twitter. So people were just like, no, I disagree with you. Which is, that's whatever. Except these were tweets from like almost 2 weeks ago. Like, you have no life. If you were digging through, I only have like 190 Twitter followers. Maybe not even that. If you're digging through my tweets to pick fights with me online, you're an idiot. Get a hobby. That's what I'm talking about here. These people have no lives. They go after people. They dig up stuff on them. Stuff that doesn't even matter. But they just want it to. This person likes chocolate. This person here likes chocolate. I don't see what the big deal is. Well, you see, they've said in the past they don't like chocolate. I don't see what the big deal is. And then they just go on and on and on and on and on. I don't know. I hate the fucking culture lately. Okay. Let's escape this terrible culture. Let's go back to the good old days when it was arguably worse. In a little segment we like to call Strong History. 10 years ago, this week, Odama was released on the GameCube. This was a weird pinball game, kind of like Dynasty Warriors meets pinball, but it was all through voice commands. Very confusing, very strange game, but really cool. Look up some videos on it. 11 years ago, Jade Empire was released on the original Xbox. I remember that being a very big deal when that game came out because it was like an action RPG, which is what a lot of people wanted from BioWare. Well, we got it there. I would say it was not that great. Kind of a boring game. I'd be in like 12 hours. Kind of disappointed. Actually, less than 12 hours. I can't remember. 13 years ago, Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 was released on the Xbox. Yeah. I played that version. I played the Dreamcast version. I played a little bit of the GameCube version locally, and then I played the Xbox version, and it was just awesome to have voice chat finally in that game. Because, like, taking the time to type something on a keyboard, let alone using the controller to type out a statement, it was just a nightmare when you're in the middle of some giant battle. Ugh. 15 years ago, Simpsons Wrestling was released on the PlayStation 1. The worst Simpsons game. I'll go there. Bar none, the worst Simpsons game. No ifs, ands, or buts. Terrible. Terrible game. Also, 15 years ago, Kirby Tilt and Tumble. A much better game for the Game Boy Color. Because you tilt Kirby and you tumble him. It had like a... it had a device inside of it that read where you were tilting it. The same stuff you've got in your phone now. They should... Man, I hope they release a game like that. Nintendo releases like Tilt and Tumble 2 or something like that. I don't know. 16 years ago, Pokemon Trading Card was released on the Game Boy Color. This always confused me. Why are you playing the trading card game of a video game in a video game? Just like saying that out loud just melts my brain. But a lot of people actually really liked it. I never played it. I thought it looked stupid. 18 years ago, Blasto was released on the PlayStation 1. Not a good game. Not a good game. Actually, a game that most people would just forget about. However, the main character, Blasto himself, was voiced by none other than Phil Hartman, the voice of Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz on The Simpsons, as well as a very important cast member on Saturday Night Live. Just fantastic. Taken away way too soon. Love that guy. 19 years ago, Alundra was released on the PlayStation in Japan. This is sort of like Sony's answer to Legend of Zelda. Really cool game. I think you can get both of them on PlayStation Network for Vita, PSP, and PlayStation 3. And I do recommend that you check those out. I think they're fantastic games. 21 years ago, Myst was released on the 3DO in Japan. What does that mean? Pretty much nothing. But when you're walking down the street this week, think to yourself, wow, if I could travel back in time 21 years ago, I would know that in Japan, Myst was being released on the 3DO. What a time. 24 years ago, some game called Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past was released in America. Sounds interesting. Not sure what it is. Link to the Past. 24 years ago. Let me know if you played that game in the comments. I don't know. And lastly, 26 years ago, Can Bunny Superior was released on the PC 88 and 98 in Japan. What is this game? Well, let's read the description. The second game in the Can Bunny series follows the story of a young Japanese boy named Takishi. One fine night, he looks out the window and notices a sexy girl undressing in the opposite building. Oh, if I could get her, sighs Takashi. Immediately, the kind bunny-eared fairy Uriko from the magic land appears and grants Takashi's wish. He now possesses a magic book that will teach him how to conquer, or as it's written here, who to counter the hearts of pretty girls, and not just the hearts. Wink. Awful. Awful. And that's gonna do it for Strong History. Take the mushroom. Guys, it is time to close out the show. Oh my god, guys. Let me tell you, it has been one hell of a rough week. I was running around with cameras and everything and recording audio. I don't know how this episode turned out. I hope it turned out well for you. I'm trying my best. You know, what's coming up this week? On Friday, an episode of Worth It on Dark Souls 3. And then, not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, video of Worth It on Ratchet and Clank. And maybe we'll start getting some of these interviews out so that you can listen to them. Or maybe we won't. Either way, you know, check out youtube.com/videogamesardumb, and we'll definitely have the live dive with No More Heroes. Maybe I'll do an episode of First Hour just to get something out, because I know Tuesday I won't be able to have an episode of Worth It because, you know, I was busy running around and interviewing people like a bigwig. Anyway, my energy has been entirely depleted. I am going to die. But the PRESSURECAST won't, because the PRESSURECAST is forever. See ya. PRESSURECAST, weekly video game news podcast, is solely owned and operated by Colin Tanner. Guests of the PRESSURECAST are not employees or freelancers of Colin Tanner, the PRESSURECAST, or VideoGamesAreDumb.com, and are not paid. Music featured on the PRESSURECAST is property of their respective owners, and no infringement is intended. For more information, email pressurecast@gmail.com.